and they rang up one of Steven Spielberg's numbers. Like, because they said there'll be nobody there. It'll go to answer phone, and we can just run down the time.
And he picked up.
Yeah, no, he didn't actually. Sadly, that would have been a great story. Sorry, I shouldn't have led you there.
Welcome to Couch Surfing, the show where visionary guests look back at their big roles, their little roles, and everything in between. I'm here with Danny Boyle. Danny,
hello.
Let's see what's on. You ready to surf?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, come on, is anyone there?
Oh my God. You dug out this. Oh, this is serious.
It's
now.
serious.
So this is Inspector Morse. Oh
that's
my
right.
God.
That's
and that was the biggest star in Britain. He's called John Thor, and he was massive. And oh wow, this is my first kind of attempt with a big proper crew, you know, like a film crew. It was a TV show, but a very big TV show.
Right.
That was the crown jewels of television in Britain. It was, and he was a massive star, and he was a really grumpy guy who never smiled.
Really?
So he sort of took me under his wing, but I gained a lot of experience of working with a big movie star, because he was the equivalent of a movie star in Britain, and also working with a big crew. And that crew, they used to work with Steven Spielberg one half of the year, shooting things like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the other half of the year, they'd shoot that TV series.
Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your film debut, Shallow Grave, and this film, Trainspotting, have been credited with reinvigorating British cinema.
Or not guilty.
I mean, did you set out to save British cinema? Was that the goal?
No, you can't think like that.
No.
People ascribe that to it. We set out to make this film about an amazing book, and this is a sequence that was drawn from a nightmare in the book.
That's just
Very
plain
disturbing.
creepy right there.
But it's McGregor's. The thing is, you think these things, but it's McGregor's acting, Ewan McGregor's acting, that really takes you there, you know?
And he really committed to this character. I read that he learned to cook up heroin. Is that true?
He did everything. We had a drug recovery group called Carlton Athletic who came in and told us all about their addiction, and they gave us all the advice that we could need about, you know, what happens to you if you get caught on that terrible train.
All right.
Oh yeah. So this is the wonderful Brendan Gleeson.
That's
This
right.
is 28 days later. Yeah.
That's right.
This was a wonderful relationship between a father and a daughter, really, and the pain of his sacrifice, really, where he has to hurt her emotionally in order to protect her long term.
I mean, this scene is so gripping visually.
Keep away from me.
Kinetically shot and on very cheap cameras.
Yeah, the mini DVs, which people weren't using that often back then.
That's
Not
right.
for feature films.
No, that was the first widely distributed feature film that had used that technology. It felt like the right technology to use for the story. And it's a brilliant story by Alex Garland. And Alex, the writer, was a mad zombie fan. He knew everything about the zombie genre, and I didn't. So I kind of kept a distance from it. So I said they've got to run. You know, to be really scary, they can't just stumble around going, oh. They've got to, because otherwise you just walk away from them. There's an agency where athletes, after they finish their careers, which is usually around 30, tragically,
Unfortunately.
they go to this agency and they get hired to open supermarkets, you know, turn tumbles, and they find work like that, and that requires certain skills, but not competition level skills anymore. And we hired them to be the zombies. So when they ran at you, it was pretty scary.
So there's a 28 Days Later threequel still in the works, is that right?
Well, it's interesting. Alex had an idea for the third one. It's a lovely idea.
Okay.
But Alex is directing himself at the moment, and he's finishing a huge TV series. So I'm not sure we'll make much progress on it in the immediate future. But
Could you co-direct?
I don't know I don't quite know what we do. It's an interesting idea again.
That is.
I don't know. I'll talk to him about
pressure.
it. Listen, I'll say you mentioned it, and I hadn't thought of that. I'll talk to him about it.
You should
We'll
call
see.
him now. Welcome back to Couch Surfing. I'm still here with Danny Boyle. Danny, shall we continue?
Oh, I'd love to.
All right.
Oh. Here's Spider-Man.
I mean, talk about an underdog story.
Yeah, an amazing film to do. Amazing to spend a year in Mumbai.
What was that like shooting in Mumbai? Because it's energetic and chaotic. How did you parachute in there? and corral this?
We didn't really take many crew. We used local crew, and because there's a big film industry in Mumbai called Bollywood.
Bollywood, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of local knowledge about filming, and I realised that was more important than us bringing kind of people from England or America. So we took minimal crew, just about 8 of us, I think, really went, and they introduced us to the city as locals, you know.
When it goes on to win all of those Oscars and to be so commercially well received and critically well received, could you have imagined it would have been that big a film?
It's interesting when you make films, some of them are successful and some of them not. Some of them you can't pay people to come and see them. They just won't come, even though you love them. Other films like Slumdog, you couldn't keep them away. You couldn't stop people watching the film. Quite what that difference is. You never really understand yourself because you put the same amount of love into each one, or you think you do. And it's something that catches people at a certain moment, you know?
All right, up next. Okay.
Wow.
All right. Okay.
Okay, you're showing that bit.
Yeah, I don't do gore well,
That's
so
quite brave.
you just people fainted during early screenings of this.
They did, especially
Yeah.
in this sequence where he gets the nerve. Because as well as he has to go through the nerve, which he describes in the book as being the most unbelievable moment. And then when he steps back, he had to stop himself fainting because he knows if he faints, he'll die from blood loss. But I think the real reason that you're captivated by it is Franco's performance. James Franco's performance is absolutely a very underestimated actor, I think. And he rightly got an Oscar nomination, an Academy Award nomination for that performance, really.
And the film is based on the true story of Aaron Ralston,
It
and
is.
he actually shot video during this, which is clearly the most tumultuous time in his life.
Yes.
And he allowed you to see that
Yes,
footage.
he did. He thought it would be helpful to us to see it, and it was. There's an extraordinary sequence in it where he speaks to his mum and dad at home, and I remember that from the original footage and being shocked at how direct and familiar it was. And he was reaching for his mum and dad at that moment because I think he thought at that moment, I'm not going to get out of this. He'd go off and not tell anybody where he was going, and he didn't think he needed people. And when you're caught there without anybody, and it's 6 days he was there, you begin to realise how much you need those people. When he tried to reach for them through the video camera in a way and leave some testimony for them to ease their pain at his passing, which is what he imagined would happen.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Up next.
Ah, yes. So this is the biggest show I've ever done, yeah.
I mean, an estimated viewing audience of 900 million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of rehearsals. What you get with these shows is, what's extraordinary is the concentration of the volunteers. So you get all these volunteers who turn up from all over the world as well as all over the country. There was a sequence later with nurses. Once they'd done their appearances, they all went home on the subway, and they'd go home in costume. So they'd go home in 19th century costume. Even before the ceremony had finished, they were posting images on the New York Times website of our show on the tube on the way home, on the subway on the way home. That was wonderful. Oh, it looks great. How nice of you to show that.
And you got the Queen as well.
Yeah, we got her as
Yeah,
well. She came
so-
along. Everybody was included.
Yeah, everybody
Nobody was
was
left out. We weren't
included.
going to leave the Queen out, you know.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary
The wonderful
comes to
Himesh Patel, who people don't know yet.
This kid's a star.
Yes, the actors who came in, they had to sing a couple of Beatles songs. And everybody who was doing it, some of whom were very, very talented, clearly, it all felt like karaoke. He walked in and he played Yesterday. It's very beautiful, and I was like, wow, much like you see him in the film. And it felt like his song for a moment. And then I thought, no, it's not. It's Paul McCartney's song, of course. But then he sang Back in the USSR, and I got up and started dancing. And directors don't generally tend to do that at an audition. You don't really behave like that. It's a bit improper. So I started dancing around, and I thought, that's him.
It arrives really right on time. I know that wasn't the intention, but it must feel good to know that something this beautiful is going to be in the world at this time.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but in Britain we're having a tough time at the moment. We've got this Brexit nightmare at the moment.
Yeah, we've heard about it.
Which you'll have
We've
heard
heard about it.
And you'll have had enough of it, no doubt. We're all kind of like in a... So it's nice to do something where people can reach for something communal.
Can we talk about Ed Sheeran?
Yeah.
The Brits like to say taking the piss, right? Like
He's very good at letting us take the piss out of him, isn't he? Originally the part wasn't... It was meant for Chris Martin of Coldplay, and we asked him, and he said, I can't leave Los Angeles anymore because I've just finished 2 years touring. I promised the kids I'll stay in Los Angeles. So then, of course, we went to Ed Sheeran, and we lied, of course. We said, Ed, you're our first choice. Would you be interested in this? And he said, you didn't. You asked Chris Martin first, he said. I know you did. And he said, and you asked Harry Styles second, which is not true. So... And he ribbed us mercilessly about that. He never let us forget that Chris Martin was our first choice.
Danny, thank you so much for surfing by. You can catch Yesterday in theaters now. And see you next week on Couchsurfing.